Hey Siri, let's make some sick beats.
Sorry, I can't edit text in your note, but I can add something to it.
Okay, well, how about we open Midiflow? Hey guys, it's Gabe again. Today I just wanted to show off a little cool application for iOS devices, so whether it's your iPhone or iPad, you can use it on both. This one's called Midiflow. So what it is a little utility app that lets you take incoming and outgoing MIDI data and just manipulate it to a certain extent so that you can get more out of your instruments. So whether it's a soft synth, a sequencer, a hardware controller, a hardware synthesizer, and so on, you can use this application as a bridge and just manipulate the data before it gets to the sound that you're trying to control. So of course your mileage is gonna vary depending on what you're looking to do, but I find this really great if you're into performing with iOS devices and maybe recording a little bit with them. But if you are a studio musician, I have something for you later. I'll talk about that at the end of this video, but let's look at some examples first. Alright guys, so for this setup you will need a MIDI keyboard of some sort, your iPhone, a camera connection kit, and of course some cables to hook up everything. And now here I just wanted to show you what Midiflow actually looks like. So I have my project loaded up. I have some various MIDI channels coming in and out. So there's 3 of them in total, and they're all going to this custom virtual port called MIDI-1. So if I tap on this little gear, you'll actually see the menu popping up. You'll notice that I have the first one limited to a pretty low MIDI note range. So my plan for this one is to be a bassline split channel. If we go over to the next 2 MIDI channels, you'll notice the split point starts at D#3 to G9. So basically the rest of the keyboard will be the other 2 MIDI channels. And then finally, if you tap at the gear again, you'll see at the very bottom, I have remapped the channels that are coming in to channels 1, 2, and 3 respectively for each channel. This is important for what's going to happen in Korg Gadget and how it's going to be able to read it. So if I go over here in Korg Gadget, I have 3 gadgets open. This one's called Dublin, the bass, Kiev, which is this kind of like crazy sample type thing, and then the polyphonic analog type synthesizer. And I should mention that I have the arpeggiator enabled for that polyphonic analog synthesizer. And then in the settings for Korg Gadget, you want to enable advanced MIDI input settings. And then we go over to this little tiny button, and then I selected MIDI-1 as the input port, channel 1 as the MIDI channel, and then so on, MIDI-1 as the input port, channel 2 for MIDI. And then on the third one, I have again MIDI-1 port, channel 3. So let's get started and hear what it actually sounds like. So again, this kind of thing is pretty cool if you're into performing with your iOS devices and doing lots of layers and splits, things like that, and doing a little bit of recording with that. But if that's all you're really trying to do, you can actually look at something more like Kymatica. That application will actually let you open various apps and takes all the incoming audio from those apps via inter-app audio, I believe, and then you can control each individual level from Kymatica itself. But with Midiflow, you have some more things you could also do. So let's look at some more examples. Alright, for this setup, you'll need your favorite synthesizer, some kind of MIDI controller, an iPhone or iDevice, its respective charger. You'll need the newer camera connection kit with lightning port in it. That way you can charge your device while everything is running, some cables to hook everything up, and a USB hub, preferably a powered one. That way all your devices get the proper juice and then your iOS device doesn't complain. So I have loaded up my ROLI to Moog patch that I made, and here it's a much simpler setup. I just have one single channel. On the input we have the Seaboard rise, and on the output we have the Moog sub Phatty. My intention here will be to play the sub Phatty all through the Seaboard. Now of course to do this, there's a few things that I had to do, so we'll go to the controller remapping. I've just made sure to filter out any other data that I don't really want, and then you'll see that I have some CCs and channel pressure and pitch bend mapped out just so that the Moog can receive that and do something useful with it that will actually sound good. Alright, so let's see how that sounds. So how does that sound? I'm pretty excited to be able to finally interface with technology like the Moog synthesizer and any synthesizers in general that have USB MIDI implemented in them already. So the fact that now you can start doing that, and not to mention if you use something like a MIDI interface, you might be able to even trigger older analog technology if you plug that all via the USB hub. But let's look at the last example that I put together here. Alright, so for this last setup, you'll just need your favorite synthesizer and hardware sequencer, which should be USB enabled for this to all work, a USB powered hub to get it all running properly, an iOS device of some kind and its charger, and of course all the cables and the USB to lightning adapter. I already have the project file open here, and you see it's just a single channel actually doing anything. So on my input, I have the OP1's output, and then for the output, I have the input for the Moog sub Phatty. So essentially, it's just taking all the MIDI data that the OP1 is able to push out and sending it to the Moog. So now let's hear what it actually sounds like. Awesome, so that's pretty cool. Now for some things to note and a bit of a negative downside about all this. So number one, you can only really use this kind of setup with class compliant MIDI and audio interfaces. I actually tried using my Machine Micro back here, and that is not really a class compliant MIDI device at all. It's not even really a standard plug and play MIDI device in general. So it just didn't work. Number two, depending on what kind of devices you'll be plugging in, you probably need a powered USB hub. Now those powered USB hubs, sometimes they're not really expensive, but you want to make sure you get a good one, just because I found a lot of kind of variation and reliability in performance when it comes to those kind of things. And also, if you are going to use the USB powered hub, any devices that suck too much power from the iOS device will not work by default. So if you have a camera connection kit like this one, it just won't work. So thanks to Apple's new thingy, which is way overpriced, you can now use this one. Same deal really, it has a little USB input, but now a lightning connector. This one will charge your device. So get yourself one of those, a USB powered hub. I know it seems like a bit of a Frankenstein setup, but it can, if you're just using it in the studio once in a while, it's pretty fun to work with. And then number three, depending on how many software synthesizers and samplers you are looking to run off your iPhone, you will probably need one of the later or newer versions of the iPhone or the iPad, whatever iOS device you're using. But for what I do, really, I just like to take some incoming MIDI in and out from my device. So I'm just using an iPhone 5C, pretty old school, not very powerful, but as you saw, it still runs Korg Gadget at a fairly good latency when used with an audio interface. So unfortunately, I have looked around for an Android alternative, and there just isn't anything like that at the moment. In the meantime, maybe I give you some ideas, so you can still try this out with your computer. Just plug it into your PC, Mac, load up Ableton, and just pass some incoming MIDI out to your outgoing MIDI. And then for studio producers, actually look at an application called Studio Mux. Now if you have heard of it, and maybe you didn't buy it, I recommend you should. Basically it turns any iOS app that you have into a VST plugin. So you can use it on your instrument tracks, you can send MIDI to the iOS app and then get the audio back, and you get all that just by plugging in your lightning port to the USB on your computer. So it's actually fairly low latency. I was really surprised at how fast the performance was. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this unusual demo with iOS devices and synth gear. I will have a few more iOS type videos coming up with music and stuff. But in the meantime, leave a comment for any questions, things like that. And don't forget to make some music after this video.